And Adidas could have had Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan loved Adidas. And they both passed. And they probably cost themselves, I'm guessing here, $50 to $75 billion. Michael Jordan just a couple of years ago made $148 million on shoes at Nike. And that's a couple of years ago. So how much are the shoes making if Michael's making $150 million? The shoes are probably making close to $1 billion or more. He's not making 50% of the profits. And my point is, this is a great message. And it's a message. When my daughter wakes up this morning, I think she's sleeping in today. She's doing a bunch of homework and finals and stuff. I'm going to text her this. This is why being relentless matters. Michael Jordan was rejected. He was rejected by 2 shoe companies. You know, you're not Larry Bird. Handsome Michael Jordan with all this grace. Nah, not really. I love Adidas. According to the special, they were just too dysfunctional. So he didn't want to go to Nike. And his mom and dad, who, by the way, Michael's mom and dad look great in this thing. They look like parents matter. Like his mom, rock solid. His dad, rock solid. They're like, you're getting on that plane and you're going to go to Nike. But the truth is, most people quit with rejection. And it's a great message. The willful and the relentless do not quit. And everybody faces rejection. I mean, think about this. Michael Jordan, this has been an illustration to me, this entire documentary. There is so much incompetence. There is so many, dysfunction, even within great organizations. Jerry Krause got rid of the best player, the best duo, the best team, and the best coach. What? He fought the Bulls the entire way. And I'm not saying Jerry Krause didn't make a lot of smart moves, but good God, he was so insecure, the short, chubby kid, the short, chubby adult, he just couldn't get out of his own way. He basically ran off the best basketball coach in the history of the sport, and the best player said, I'm not going to play without the best coach. And he blew it up. He blew it up. They were still the best team in the East. Give me a break on the New York Knicks. Nobody could shoot. If John Starks is your first or second best player, you're not going to win championships. Nice player. He should be the 5th best player on a championship team. So, when I watched this, I thought it shows you why relentlessness and willfulness are wildly underappreciated. Everybody faces roadblocks. People are going to doubt your talent if you're gifted. I mean, if you go back and look at the history, I remember the show American Idol, which, I think it's fair to say, Joy, for a decade, outside of football on television, it was the biggest show for a decade. Every network passed on it. Every network passed on it until Fox said, we gave this thing a run. Ran TV for a decade. Seinfeld show, turned down. Seinfeld show, even the public didn't like it for a year. Like nobody watched it. Letterman's morning show, didn't work. But it's the willfulness, the people that use rejection and obstacles as jet fuel and just don't quit. Because when you're watching the best basketball, Michael he came from the best program. He had the best college coach. He was great looking. He had great parents. He was unbelievably great. And shoe companies are like, nah, really. What? That'd be like Beyonce walking into a record company and they're like, no, I don't think she's pretty or has any talent. What? Well, we've got Glenn Campbell here cutting some LPs. I'm like, Converse? Are you crazy? Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news.
This is the Herd. Also went in on Michael Jordan being apolitical. And they told the story about, in where Michael grew up. Jesse Helms had a regrettable history, and there was an African-American candidate running, and Michael did not go out and endorse him. Now, Michael did acknowledge that he was willing to donate, or his mom was, to the campaign, but he didn't want to go out and actively endorse him. And this is the interesting thing about this. Why do we make athletes be politicians? Now, I'm not one of these people that believes stay in your lane. I'm not saying that. I think you can go in any lane you want, but you don't have to stay in your lane, but you sure as hell have the right to pick your lane. You don't have to stay in anybody's lane. But I can pick my lane, can I? I also think it's really easy for average guys to have courage politically. Average football players, average basketball players. You're average. You're replaceable. You got nothing to lose, bruh. Michael was representing Nike and McDonald's. He was the face of the NBA. It is easy for the garage band to lament corporate America. But what if you're the Eagles in your prime, or Jay-Z in your prime, or U2 in your prime, and you're grossing $175 million, and you're dealing with corporate entities? Michael was not just representing Michael. He was representing shoe brands, Nike, McDonald's, the league, the Bulls. He mattered more. So, yes, you have to consider that. Most people who are representing things beyond themselves, listen, I've had stuff written in my contract where I can't give political either activism or donations. I can't represent an ammunition company. I mean, I'm a sportscaster. Michael Jordan ran the NBA. And so the other part of this, though, is why did Tiger Woods get heat for certain things not being political? Phil Mickelson doesn't. We pick and choose. And I just think it's incredibly unfair to demand certain athletes have to choose a lane. I am not a stay-in-your-lane guy, but don't you have a right to choose the lane? And Michael Jordan commented on that, about not jumping in to politics at that point in his life.
I do commend Muhammad Ali for standing up for what he believed in. But I never thought of myself as an activist. I thought of myself as a basketball player. I wasn't a politician when I was playing my sport. You know, I was focused on my craft. Was that selfish? Probably. But that was my energy. That's where my energy was.
Outside of LeBron, how many NBA players are politically active? Let's start with almost none. A handful. Most of the older smart guy like Chris Paul's into it, kind of. But the reality is Steve Kerr, yes, his dad was a diplomat. Greg Popovich, in his 70s, different generation, was in the military. Why does Damian Lillard have to be great at anything other Damian Lillard wants to be great at? He's great at the hip-hop thing, and he's great at basketball. Good for him. And the other thing I find refreshing about Michael Jordan, he hasn't apologized for any of his actions. He hated Isaiah, and he's sticking to it. And he gambled a little, and he's not apologizing. And he's not politically active, and he's not walking it back. Everybody now is terrified of any pushback. And Michael's like, no, that's who I am. That's the lane I chose. And that one I didn't choose. And I'm not walking it back. You know, it was funny this weekend. I was had the great fortune to talk to a CEO. She's really talented. And we were talking about people in our business that have flourished. And she says, this CEO said, you know, the key to it really is have an opinion and go all the way with it. And be able to handle mean people on Twitter. That's Michael. I find it incredibly refreshing that he's not going to apologize on his political inactivism. He's not apologizing for hating Isaiah. He's not apologizing for gambling. Why should he? All lanes he chose. Good stuff today. Also, the most... I almost felt bad for Adidas and Converse. Adidas and Converse had Michael. And they whiffed. And when I watch that, there's something that needs to be said. And I think if you have a kid, if you have a teenager,